What's going on, everybody? My name is Joe Morley, and I'm from the Joe Morley Sports Show. And today we're going to do the team preview of the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raider Nation, where are you? Come out in full effect. Show the love in Las Vegas. The move. This will be the first year that they move from Oakland to Vegas. Should be an exciting year. I think they have a good team, but that's just me because I'm wearing my black and silver Joe Morley Sports t-shirt for this preview. This, of course, is your head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to say that. I might say Oakland sometimes, but it's Las Vegas. You got to get used to that now. This is Jon Gruden, Aka Chucky, the man, the myth, the legend in Oakland or in Las Vegas, wherever the Raiders play. This guy is loved. This guy is loved by the Raider Nation. And, yeah, he went off and won the Super Bowl and beat the Raiders in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay. But he came back, and this is basically the girlfriend that got away to the Raiders. And they think he's going to bring us back to the glory day. He worked for ESPN Monday night. He was the highest paid personality from 2009 to 2018 before he came back to the Raiders. He's worked for some great head coaches, Mike Holmgren, George Seifert, Ray Rhodes. And then look at the guys he's hired: Mike Tomlin, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan have all worked for Jon Gruden. So he is paving the way for it. He's an offensive coach, and he's bringing in the guys that he thinks will help out. And this year he brought in Rod Marinelli. He got rid of Buckner, the great defensive line coach, just to bring him in. And it's going to help tremendously. And it's not like Buckner was a bad coach, but when you can add a better coach, you add it. And that's what Jon Gruden and Mike Mayock are saying about these Raiders. If they can add somebody at a position that upgrades, that's what they're going to do. No matter what the name is on the back, basically, if they can upgrade, they're going to upgrade. So here's last year's 2019 team rankings. The offense was 11th overall. 11th overall. And if you watch the games, they struggled. They struggled at various times throughout the year, but they were still the 11th best offensive league. And that has to be something that you Raider fans have to be excited about, because look, 19th in passing. They had no wide receivers. Williams played for a while, then he got hurt. Waller was the number one target on the team if you look at it, but when you're the only one target, that's who they're gonna double team. That's who they're gonna stick, and it's gonna take it away. So they had nothing else to go to, and they still finished 19th. Rushing, Josh Jacobs came on with a great rookie season. He got hurt, and played half the season hurt, and still put up a good thing. So the offense, they added a lot of weapons, and we'll get into that. This offense is only going to improve. The defense, this is where the Raiders struggled. This is where, if you're a Raider fan, you were upset a lot of times last year, because it's like the Raiders took the lead, and all of a sudden the defense gave it right back up. But they struggled in defending the pass. They couldn't stop the pass. They were out of position. They just didn't have the talent back there. Probably, you know what I mean. That's what it comes down to. So it was tough to watch that defense. They did have injuries on the defense, but they just didn't have what it took. And Paul Guttner's going to work on that, and he's going to get it done. But I'll show you the improvement of what they have added this year, and we'll see if you think that they get better too. Remember, they went through that whole Antonio Brown crap last year with him and his feet, and didn't want to play, and calling Mike Mayock names. I'm glad he's out of town. I'm glad he's gone. The defense couldn't get off the field. They were 26 in third downs, and they couldn't produce turnovers. They were the second worst defense in producing turnovers, and that's going to have to change. They're going to have to get Derek Carr and this offense the ball, and Derek Carr is going to have to keep the offense on the field. And that brings us to the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders, Derek Carr. Unfortunately, there's a lot of hate against this guy, and I don't know why. I don't know why a lot of Raider fans do not like Derek Carr. There's not many quarterbacks that are better than him, and he puts up numbers. I mean, look at last year. 16 starts, 4,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 70% completion rate. 70% to wide receivers that were not even in sync with them. The wide receivers they brought in on the street, the wide receivers they traded for that weren't there in training camp, injured wide receivers. These are mix and match kind of guys that he had no rhythm with, and he threw 70%. And a lot of guys get mad at him because they say, well, he checks down a lot. He checks down a lot. He also is very accurate in the long game. If you look up his stats of how accurate he is of 15-plus yards, he's like one of the top quarterbacks in the league. It's the offense design that doesn't get him to do that. But that's what the offense is. It's a West Coast offense. They're going to want to do those short little passes and let the wide receivers take off. Short and go. Get rid of the ball. That's what it is. And that's kind of what Derek Carr's a little bit of his issue is. And I think sometimes he holds on to the ball too much. It comes down to the injury. And we all remember when he got injured in the year that they were going to the playoffs. I think he hasn't been that kind of guy, but I see it getting better under Jon Gruden. I see that I call it fear has been going away from him. So I see him improving every year under Gruden, and so give him a third year with weapons. It's only going to get better. Derek Carr is only going to get better. And you haters, you can call for Mariota all you want, but Mariota knows what he's coming in for. Derek Carr does have a fumbling problem, and that's one of his issues. But this guy, like, he gives it all for the team. And you might get mad, when he dives for first downs and he fumbles the ball out of bounds, turns it over. But he's doing that extra effort. He's going that extra effort, and he puts it all on the line for the team, and you have to respect that. Here's the superstars that are going to Las Vegas with the Raiders. You already know Josh Jacobs, the best rookie running back last year. He had 1,150 total yards last year, or rushing yards, 7 TDs, 166 receiving yards. He played more than half of the season with the separated shoulder. He played with that shoulder injury, and he still lowered his shoulder. He still did it. I think he led the league in yards after broken tackles, or how many broken tackles. That was him, Josh Jacobs. And now you add people around him. They're not gonna be able to stack the box on him like they did. Maxx Crosby came on. He had 10. He broke his hand in preseason, and then he came on in the regular season with 10 sacks. So 47 tackles, 14 quarterback hits. He was always around the quarterback. If you watch Raider games, Darren Waller, I already talked about him. He was basically the weapon last year for the Raiders. The weapon. He finished with 1,145 yards, 3 touchdowns, and I think the touchdowns will come more this year because they do have more weapons, and Carr will be able to find him more in the end zone. I know he had a couple that were called back last year, but he will get those. I think the touchdowns will come this year. Rodney Hudson, that's the best center in the league, and you could at me on that. You can get mad at me on that. But Rodney Hudson has 31 straight games without giving up a sack. He's at an 80 or plus blocking grade every year that he's played, and he's been the number 1 rated pass blocker in 4 of his 8 seasons. And if he wasn't number 1, he was like number 2, number 3. So that's the best center in the league. Here's the draft picks. Henry Ruggs. A lot of people got mad over Henry Ruggs. But I told you, if you've been following Joe Morley Sports, I told you that Jon Gruden loved Henry Ruggs. And it's not about CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy and the difference. I think he liked Ruggs because of the versatility and the speed. And he's always looking at Tyreek Hill in the division, so why not go get your speedster? And beyond popular belief, Henry Ruggs is not just the run straight and I'll throw it as far as I can and you catch it. No, he has a lot of catches in his college career of under 20 yards where he does those little slants and goes and catches it and takes off. So he's going to fit right into this offense. And if you saw any games last year of the Raider games in Oakland, Jon Gruden was always trying to do reverses, always trying to do trick plays with the fast kind of guys, receivers. Remember, they brought Davis in from Green Bay. That didn't work out. They tried to do some things with Zay Jones. So he's always trying to look for that guy and look for that weapon. He's trying to innovate his offense, which Henry Ruggs should be able to do. And I think Lynn Bowden, if you ever watch tape on him, Lynn Bowden played every position in college: quarterback, running back, wide receiver. So he's going to be that kind of weapon too. They have him listed as a running back on the depth chart. Brian Edwards was one of my favorite wide receivers coming out of the draft, and I talked about him a lot before the draft. If you guys haven't seen him, I would go check out highlights on him. I'm really high on this draft because the experts are giving it a bad grade. That's what they did last year too, and the draft was amazing. I say trust Mike Mayock because of last year's rookie class and his track record is good right now. John Sensin could be a starting guard if not for this offensive line that they already had. Arnett. A lot of people are going off on the Raiders for drafting Arnett. But did you know that he was the best man cornerback in the draft? He only gave up 1 touchdown, and he played opposite of the best corner of the top cornerback that was drafted. So of course he's going to get thrown out, but he played good. He's going to come off, and Jon Gruden's even saying that he had him, ranked as the number 1 quarterback over Okudah. So you never know. Tanner Muse. A lot of people are talking about him. When they took Isaiah Simmons off the field on 3rd down or on a big down that they took Isaiah Simmons off the field, you know who stayed on the field? Tanner Muse. Robertson, underrated. And if you look and you ask people what their sleeper of the draft and who got the biggest sleeper of the draft, they're going to tell you the Las Vegas Raiders did with Robertson. He was the number 1 rated slot quarterback coming out of the draft. So the Raiders improved their secondary with this draft, and from what I've read, and I've read this from multiple GMs and from Mayock himself, is this year, since they weren't able to go out and recruit, a lot of teams didn't want to draft past the 5th round. So that's why you see that the Raiders don't have anything past the 5th round, because they said it would just be guessing at that point. They didn't get to do the normal recruiting that they normally do. So after the 5th round, they didn't want to take those chances, and that's why the Raiders did what they did, all within the first four rounds. Here's your depth chart of the Las Vegas Raiders. Of course, I already mentioned Derek Carr. They brought in Marcus Mariota. Okay, calm your jets on Marcus Mariota. He did get beat out in Tennessee. So it's not like he knows that he's coming in and he knows that it's Derek Carr's team. From what I read, they kind of want to treat him like Hill from New Orleans. We'll see what happens. I'm not debating that he's better or worse than Derek Carr. I'm just telling you that he did get beat out in Tennessee, so he's not like the savior coming over here. He's not going to be the guy who he's not Brett Favre coming in with his Hall of Fame record. He got beat out. So calm down a little bit. Let Derek Carr lead this team and believe in Derek Carr. Josh Jacobs, we talked about. He should have another great year. Jalen Richard, he played in spurts last year when Jacobs was hurt. He had 323 yards rushing. I hope he takes a bigger step, but I think that's why they brought Lynn Bowden in. I'm not sure about Devon Booker. I'm not going to say he's going to make the team. I just think he's more of a extra running back to have. Tyrell Williams, great wide receiver, right? He started off the first 5 games, five games, 5 touchdowns, and it was like, yep, that's what we brought Williams in. We brought him in for when we get close to the end zone, tossed it up to him, and he let him get it. Then he got hurt, and he was never the same the rest of the season. Henry Ruggs, we already talked about. Hunter Renfrow, he finished with over 600 yards last year, and the last 2 games he came up with over 100 yards. And it finally seemed like towards the end of the year they got him going. They got him going, and he was finally the receiver that we all thought he was going to be. So hopefully that translates into this year. Nelson Aguilar's coming over. A lot of hate from him on Eagle fans hate him. He drops a lot of balls, wide open balls. Zay Jones, hopefully he can come up. I've seen him. Zay Jones is like the number 1 guy working with Derek Carr this offseason. So we'll see if that translates to the field. Keelan Doss, remember everybody was upset when the Raiders let him go last year. Then he went to Jacksonville. Then they brought him back and nothing. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys are we still high on Keelan Doss? I don't know. Let me know. So we'll see. But I think those guys right there, Williams, Ruggs, Renfrow, Jones, Aguilar, and Edwards will be the guys that you see to make the team. The other guys, they've been around for a while, and if they don't prove themselves, they're going to go. Unless the Raiders need to make money, but salary cap moves, maybe they get rid of one of the other guys, but I don't see it happening. Darren Waller's there. They brought in Jason Witten, the veteran from Dallas. He doesn't really have the speed, but he still has the hands. He still has the blocking techniques, and hopefully he teaches Foster Moreau and Darren Waller a few things. And that's basically what they're bringing him into. They're bringing him here for the leadership, and that's what he's coming for. Nick O'Leary, I think, just got hurt and he's out for the season. So I didn't have time to take him off, but I think he's out for the season if I read that correctly. Colton Miller, a lot of hate on him for the first round pick, but he did excellent job last year. Richie Incognito, he's back, right? Rodney Hudson, I already talked about. Gabe Jackson got hurt last year, missed a couple games. Denzel Good came in, did a great job. Trent Brown, awesome job. So this is a top 5 offensive line right here. They just need to get it going. The defense. Here's the defense. Clelin Ferrell, a lot of people hated on him being the number 1 pick, or the number 4 pick. Think they could have waited for him, but that's who they picked. He had 4.5 sacks last year. He started to come on, I think, towards the end of the year. But Maxx Crosby was the main guy that took over. But when you saw Maxx Crosby hit, like Ferrell was right there, it was close. So the defense started to come on towards the end. They had a lot of injuries last year. They brought in Malik Collins, who I think is an excellent addition to this. He's coming from the Dallas Cowboys. Hankins is there. I want to see more from him. I want to see more from Hurst. I want to see more from P.J. Hall. Hurst did have 3.5 sacks last year. I think Hall and Hankins only had a sack and a half themselves. Hankins is more of your run stopper. He had like 50 tackles. So, I see that. But the linebacker position, this is the upgrade. And this is the underrated move of the offseason, is bringing in Cory Littleton from the Rams. This guy had 250 tackles the last 2 years, over 250 tackles. He has 6 career interceptions, 2 sacks, or 8.5 sacks. So this guy is going to do whatever. He even came out and said, I'll play special teams if the Raiders want me to. That's the kind of leadership that you want. Wachowski, he's coming over from the Bears. He only started 8 games. In the 8 games over there, he had 76 tackles, 3.5 sacks, an interception. Underrated. He was a backup over there. He's coming in. He's going to get a start. He's going to start. And then you add him with Nicholas Morrow, who had 70 tackles last year. So these guys, these linebackers, are weapons, and they all have speed, and they all can blitz. They could all do what we need them to do. This is something that the Raiders haven't seen. The Raiders, I've been a Raider fan, and I haven't seen them put this much effort in getting linebackers in a long time. And finally, we addressed the linebacker position that every Raider fan knows that they had to address. Trayvon Mullen, you have to like him. He only started 10 games last year. He took over when they sent Conley away. His first game, I thought he was going to take one to the house. He ended up dropping it. He ended up getting an interception. He got 50 tackles. And, in the 10 starts, he played good. Abram, hopefully he comes back. And in the first game, the Monday night game to start the season, he was all over the field. And every Raider fan was pumped up about him and happy about him. And we're like, this guy's going to lead the defense, to the next level. And then it comes out that he was hurt and he's done for the season. And it was a shocker, and it sucked. So they actually brought in people to, they brought in Jeff Heath from the Cowboys, who's a solid backup. Eric Harris, you all know him from last year. He's been with the Raiders for a while. He's going to back up Demarius Randall this year. Randall he's just starting to switch over to safety. He did it 2 years ago, but he gets sacks from the safety position. He's Demarius Randall and John Abran. Those are going to be some versatile guys, and they're going to be able to move around. And then you have LaMarcus Joyner, who got hurt last year, and they try to move him around different positions, and they're going to figure out what they're going to do with Joyner. But that's what they brought Joyner in for. But we just didn't – the Raiders' defense just didn't have enough weapons to let Joyner be that little joystick guy that they can move here and there, put him in the slot, let him go and get it. So now they have the surrounding staff around him that I think Joyner will bounce back this year, and you're gonna see Joyner all over the field. And they have him listed as a cornerback right now, but I think he'll line up at linebacker sometimes. I think he'll line up at safety. You're gonna see him all over the field, and he's gonna have a big year. I think that's what they brought him in to do, and they're gonna let him do it. Prince Amukamara, underrated signing. They got him cheap. He was the number 1 cornerback on one of the top 5 defenses for the last couple of years, and we get him cheap. And a lot of people are underrated, or not talking about that move, but that right there is a great move, and he's going to teach these young cornerbacks a few things. So I like this defense. I think it's an up-and-coming defense, and it's going to be way better than it was last year. And that's all we need is a defense that can get off the field, get the quarterbacks back to the offense back their ball. Here's their schedule. I personally don't think it's a tough schedule. It is what it is, but it's not the toughest I've seen. I think they beat the Panthers. I'm like one of the minority people that say that they beat the Panthers. A lot of people are going, Panthers are going to beat the Raiders in the week 1. I don't see it. I can see them upsetting the Saints. I could see it. Patriots, more than likely, they don't. Bills, that's where they're gonna. This is where it gets hard. Bills, Chiefs, Buccaneers, the Browns, Chargers, Broncos. All the division games are gonna be tough. They should have beat the Broncos at the end of last year. They basically gave them that game when they went to tie it up, but they went for 2 just at the end of the game just to end the season, and they didn't tie it up. Chiefs, I think they beat the Falcons. The Jets, Colts are going to be a good game, but Raiders have Phillip Rivers' number, so it's not like they're going to be scared of Phillip Rivers. Chargers, Dolphins, and then the Broncos. So I'm going 9-7 with my prediction. 9-7. I could see them going 12-4 if they get a couple breaks here and there. But that would have to be that they actually step up and beat the Chiefs this year, which I don't think they're ready for. I think they're going to get close. They're improved. They're an improved team. But I'm going to go 9-7, and I think 9-7 gets them to the playoffs. I mean, if you're not happy with that, you have to be happy with playoffs, right? If a couple injuries happen, the wide receivers don't pan out again, 5-11, and then that's when you could talk about getting rid of some players or doing whatever. But I'm going to go 9-7. Here's the salary cap status for this year. They got to get those rookies under the contract. That would take up to $8 million. Then next year they have 34. They can make some room here and there. They're not. That's the thing about the Raiders. They have big contracts, but they have it where they could wiggle some of them. And really, the only free agent that would affect the team, except for the guys who are on the 1-year deals, the only guy that they really have that they'd have to sign for a big contract would be Gabe Jackson, and that's if they even want to keep him after this year. But other than that, they're moving in the right direction. So that's your Las Vegas Raiders 2020 team preview. I'm going 9-7. I believe in Mike Mayock. You should believe in Mike Mayock. Stop hating on Derek Carr. Let him do his thing. Let him get his rhythm going. Let's watch this offense. I think it's going to be a top 10 offense. I mean, they were already 11th last year, so I'm not really going outside of a box or anywhere. I'm just saying they added a lot of weapons, both sides of the ball. And they added a good coach on the defensive line, and they're going to get to that quarterback, and they're going to get this team going, and that's what Jon Gruden was brought in to do. This is his 3rd year. He wants to win. He wants to get back to the playoffs. They added an extra playoff spot, so the Raiders are going to be right there. They started 6-4 last year until they went downhill, and injuries and depth is what they didn't have, and now you look at their depth chart. I already showed you it. That's what they have now. They have depth in all positions. They have talent at every position. They upgraded the linebacker position, which they desperately needed. So the Raiders are back, and Las Vegas is getting a good team and a winning team, and that's what they wanted to. And look at that stadium. What a beautiful stadium. Check out the upgrades. If you haven't seen pictures of the Las Vegas stadium, I recommend it, because that stadium, when I look at pictures of that one and the one in LA, it's just blowing that one away right now. And just to have the Raiders back on the field, and I think I'm going right now 9-7, 2nd place in the AFC West, 2nd place. So Raider fans, let me know what I missed, what I didn't miss. Let me know what you liked, what I said. Maybe there's a player or something that I missed, and you were like, hey, how come you didn't mention this guy? Let me know. Put it down in the comments. Let me know if you're happy with 9-7, what you think. I'm here to talk sports with you, and that's the good thing about it. You're not supposed to agree with me. Just give me your opinion and come with facts about it. So I'm Joe Morley, and you can check me out at joemorleysports.com. My podcast is on all those Spotify, iHeart. You can check me out on Instagram. I do daily posts. All right, Raider Nation, have a great day and stay healthy.